dominated the social discourse in Nigeria, social and political discourse in Nigeria. And that is one, the Dapchi and Chibok abduction, which has now come to the fore following the visit of the former U.S. Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, where President Muhammadu Buhari did make mention that the federal government would embark on negotiation. Probably the military option has not been working, and what the president is concerned about at this point is a safe return of the Dapchi as well as the kidnapped Chibok girls. Also, the president withheld his assent on the Electoral Act amendment, and he has forwarded same and the reasons for which he withheld his assent to the National Assembly. These two issues are what we'll be taking a look at today on democracy and the rule of law, and I do hope you have a very wonderful time on the program today. Now, let me introduce our guest on the show who will be joining in this discussion and in a way shape our public opinion on these issues. I have with me, he's a communication expert, he's a legal practitioner, as well as a special assistant to Delta State Governor Ifeanyi Okowa on communications. Barrister Fred Natimo, you're welcome.
Always my pleasure. Good
All
afternoon,
right.
viewers.
Thank you and welcome on the show. I also have with me the former chairman of the Ikeja branch of the Nigerian Bar Association, Barrister Yinka Farumbi. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
And Barrister Michael Munnan, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
All right. So we'll start with the Electoral Act amendment, which seems to be as if the presidency and the National Assembly will be embarking on a sort of face-off, as President Muhammadu Buhari on Tuesday wrote to the National Assembly to withhold assent on the amendment of the 2010 Electoral Act. The letter was read on the floor during plenary on Tuesday by the Senate President Bukola Saraki. In a letter addressed to Senator Bukola Saraki, President Buhari stated that he is declining assent to the amendment of the Electoral Act because the amendment to the sequence of the election in Section 25 of the Principal Act may infringe on the constitutional rights guaranteed to INEC to organize, undertake, supervise all elections provided for in Section 16A of the Constitution. I'll start with Barrister Fred. Before we go into the reasons, the president, he actually did state the reasons for which he withheld his assent. He didn't just say he's not not going to sign the Electoral Act amendment. Let me start with you. Did you see this coming? Like, were you thinking the president would go ahead to assent to this Electoral Act amendment? Or did you see this coming?
Not just me alone. I think the vast majority of Nigerians were expecting that.
Why?
It was not going to be assented to because, you know, this is a political issue and it has a lot of political undertone. And because we're also approaching another election, you expect that this kind of rigmarole to take place between, you know, party men and women, or between the party and the opposition. But be that as it is may, the Electoral Act itself that they have amended, it's okay by them, be the lawmakers.
Okay.
But you also have to look at the constitutional implications of trying to rest the Electoral Act on the provisions of the Constitution. And Section 1(3) of the Constitution says that any other law that has duplication or that is inconsistent with what is in the Constitution is to that, you know, extent, you know, null and void. So if you look at the Electoral Act issue, it has been on, and a lot of judgment in the Supreme Court has affirmed and has always said that INEC is the only authorized body that is responsible for the fixing of election dates and the sequence. All right. In President versus National Assembly during Obasanjo's time, it was held that it's INEC that has that power. In Silva versus PDP, I think the same decision was taken. In James Falake versus INEC, the same decision was taken. And in 2010, the lawmakers tried to amend the Constitution by saying that the amendment they had on Section 139(1) and all other sections that deal with handling elections, they now say subject, in accordance with the Electoral Act. And that word in accordance, or that phrase in accordance with the Electoral Act, did not cure section paragraph 15 of the third schedule, which was made pursuant to section 153 of the Constitution, that says that INEC still has that power to perform. And in Falake, the Supreme Court made it very clear that that section stands and no other person has the power to do so. So if you are a lawmaker, and as lawmakers amended those aspects of the Constitution, but they also left that lacuna in paragraph 15 of the third schedule, which was made pursuant to section 153. So that lacuna being existing, INEC still has the power. Even apart from that, by saying that in accordance with the Electoral Act, you are trying to now, make the Electoral Act of a superior law to the Constitution. So it's the Electoral Act that should be resting on the Constitution, not the Constitution resting on the Electoral Act.
Yes.
So even for the lawmakers now to now think that because of that amendment of 2010, which says in accordance with the Electoral Act, they now have the right to now change the sequence of the election, I think it will still hit the rock. And that is what the political opponents are trying to use a court party to achieve. Because, they don't want to go straight by saying, okay, APC or Mr. President wants to go to court.
Right.
So the accord issue now will now take the matter back again to the courts for them to decide whether or not that provision holds.
All right, thank you very much for that explanation. And Barrister Farumbi, the question now, what is the hula baloo about this Electoral Act amendment? What's there to it?
Honestly, the whole thing is very, very funny. And it's pointing towards one singular fact that do we really have the interest of the masses of the people of this country in mind or not?
I agree.
When you look at the whole cry and this about the amendment, it's just for service reason, nothing more, nothing less. It is that, we don't want this to be done in order not to jeopardize our own chances. And therefore, let's make sure that we till the ground towards our side.
It's all about self-preservation.
It is all about self-preservation, and it's very unfortunate, most unfortunate. And they are acting as if to say this is the first election that we are going to embark on in this country. We have had various elections in accordance with the dictate of INEC, who has constitutional power and immunity to do whatever they intend to do, as long as it's in tandem with the provision of the Constitution.
Yeah.
And what they have done is not a negation of the Constitution. Why don't you allow it to stay? How many months do we have to election? And now by the time you rearrange it, you are telling them that all the logistics they put in place must be reassessed. And even when we have years to prepare, we still have flawed election. Now that they do not even know what will happen between now and the few months that is left. And so arrangement, logistic, everything is in jeopardy. Why don't you allow them to do in accordance with what you have done? All we are demanding from them is that let our vote count, give us a credible, fair and credible election. As long as you have done those things, it does not matter whether the presidential or the local government or this election is the one that will come first or the one that will come last. No! As long as our vote will count, it doesn't matter which comes first or which comes last.
All right,
very well. Yes, I listened to my colleague, especially the essay to Governor Okoa, on the issue of Section 139 of the Constitution and the Electoral Act.
Okay.
I want to say that I have a different view from his submission.
All right, please.
The reason is, before the pronouncement on the various decided cases that he has cited now, there was no law that stipulated that INEC must do this, apart from the Constitution that said you have to organize the election. So if the Electoral Act, which also stands on the Constitution, gives specifics to the arrangement, the organization of the elections, goes ahead to streamline, to say, INEC, this is how you have to carry out your duties. I don't see anything wrong with that. Once that Electoral Act stipulates that this is the way elections should go, it should move from maybe National Assembly or State Houses of Assembly to the presidency and not the other way around, then the electoral body, that is INEC, has no reason, it has no power, it has no constitutional right to shout that he doesn't want to comply with the law. The law, INEC is a creation of the law. And so if there is a law that says this is how you have to go about it, then you have to follow it. I was surprised to hear them saying that they want to go to court, they want to do this, they want to do that. It does not lie in their mouth to say that this is what we want to do. The law says this. And so, there is no court that is allowed to truncate the procedure of the procedure of making laws by the National Assembly or even the State Assembly. So this one that some people went to court and the court says you cannot go on is completely wrong. So what my thinking is that INEC should not be seen to be biased in any way, because the fact that they are now saying that they want to continue to do the way they have already stipulated, it means that they are biased already in favor of a particular.
Are you saying the amendment of the sequence of
let me finish now before
does not infringe on the constitutional
at all? It does not.
Right guaranteed.
At all, it does not. It does not, because the Constitution says you should organize. You understand? You should organize elections. Then there is a law that stipulates how you go about the organization. And that is the Electoral Act. So once the Electoral Act now says this is how you should go about the constitution, the organization of elections, I don't see anything that infringes on the right of INEC to organize election there. You understand what I'm saying? So there's no need for INEC to now decide we want to do it this way because we have a constitutional right that says we have to organize election. When there is a law now, if it comes into existence, that says that this is how the order that we want to organize this election. You understand? I am not in support of a situation that a particular group of people or a particular section of the society or the country will now say, this is what we want and it must be done. It should be according to the law. You understand? So the Electoral Act, once it's stipulated, because before now it was not there, and that was the reason those decisions came forth. Once there is a stipulation on how you are going to go about the sequence of election, there's no court that will now say you don't have a right to now go another way.
Let me come in here briefly because it's in accordance with my argument. You see, I still go with the Supreme Court judgment because that is the apex court in this country. We don't have two Supreme Court. And all this judgment that has been given, they are not lesser court judgments. In Silva and PDP, he said, no, why must you cancel an election? That you have fixed a date and you cancel the election. No, we are not going to agree. There's something happening. They went to court. And the court said, no, so long as that election has not taken place, it's just a date that has been fixed. The umpire has a right, if he has a genuine reason, to cancel. And they went on. The amendment we are talking about in the Constitution was done in 2010 by the National Assembly, when they say in accordance with the Electoral Act. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that whatever they do, whichever law they want to come up with later, with that accordance with the Electoral Act, it will now hold. Then in 2016, that is 6 years after that amendment that says in accordance with the Electoral Act, after 6 years, another issue rose on the Faleke issue, about that popular case of Faleke. And the Supreme Court also went back to say that pursuant to paragraph 15 of the test schedule, paragraph 15 of the test schedule, which was made pursuant to section 153 of the Constitution, says that INEC has the power to, stipulate the dates and the sequence, and that no other person has that same power to do it.
There's no doubt about that.
That was even 6 years.
There's no doubt about that. There was no law before then.
So I'm coming now. I'm just coming.
Stipulated the sequence.
I'm coming, sir.
All right.
Now, after that was decided, now you are not making an amendment to the Electoral Act, and you are not going to tell INEC the sequence Because what is the problem now is the sequence.
Yes.
INEC said, okay, the presidential election we hold last. You say it has to, no, presidential election will hold first. You are saying it will hold last. So you are tampering with the sequence, the date it will hold. And the Constitution says it is the constitutional responsibility of INEC to do so. So for your going to do that now in the Electoral Act is duplication. And when there's duplication, one is in the Constitution, one's in the Electoral Act. Which one comes first?
My simple intervention in this matter.
Okay.
Honestly, my simple intervention.
So definitely, Constitution comes first.
Not INEC said we are going ahead with what is on ground. Mind you, the only law that is on ground now is the Constitution and the former Electoral Act.
Yes.
The so-called amendment is not a law yet.
Yes.
So
it's a bill. It's still a bill.
It's not a law yet. So if they are saying they are not going to go according to that, they know what they are doing. And the another area which I would disagree with my learned friend is when he said INEC cannot go to court. Yes, cannot go to court. I disagree. Everybody under constitutional governance has the right to go to court. Even for nonsense and census. You are at liberty to approach it. It all depends on it is the court that will tell you you shouldn't have planned to run. It is not for us to decide, no, you can't go to court. That will be returning us back to the state of nature. And nobody will want to go back to Siberia.
Well, legally, they have the right. But what I'm saying is that morally, when you look at it, they are supposed to be unbiased. They are supposed to be unbiased. You understand? But in a situation, because there is a particular group that says this, we are in support of you, we want you to do it this way, and you know you owe your allegiance to that group, and you are saying you want to go to court for the interpretation or to intervene, so that you are making the entire population
those who say amendment
has not been biased, has not been neutral again.
Sit down.
Now you are not biased.
Excuse me. This one. INEC will not just sit down to allow you to usurp their functions.
Yes.
And that is one. Two, the Federal High Court in its wisdom has even ruled temporarily that the status quo ante should be maintained until the motion, on notice concerning this matter is held and determined.
If you tell me to
what
in Abuja tomorrow.
So what is my interest here now is that with this another test case again, that at the end of this matter we will know whether the Electoral Act comes first or the Constitution comes first. But I know that the Constitution comes first.
If you tell me to report in Abuja tomorrow, you want to see me in Abuja 10 a.m. tomorrow, the decision whether to go by night bus today or to go by first flight tomorrow morning, or to go by flight this evening, should be mine.
Of course.
But if I tell you to come by flight, you have to come by flight.
It should be mine.
If I calculate the way you have to come, it must be somewhere.
For example, again, sir, you want to write an exam, and the seat is not numbered. You can decide to sit down in the front seat, or you go to the back seat.
All right, thank you. Now the Senate has opposed an injunction granted by the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja, restraining it from overriding President Muhammadu Buhari's decision to veto the Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2018, recently passed by the National Assembly. The Apex Legislative Chamber also resolved to write a protest letter to the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Walter Onnoghen, to express displeasure about the action of the court, which it considered undue interference in its constitutional jurisdiction of the Parliament. Let's take a look at that report. I'll be right back.
We collaborate to create a number of opportunities to increase trade and investment and to expand access to electricity, an essential component of both human and economic development.
The Senate, kind of restraining the Senate from looking further into the issue of the electoral bill just recently. Something that I believe it's totally bipartisan.
Democracy at work. I don't believe with that amendment. I voted against it. I'll vote against it tomorrow. But it behoves on me to talk to my colleagues to see it the way I see it.
Very, very clear. The principles is very, very clear. And the opinion shared by both the leader and the minority leader, I'm sure, is the opinion of all of us. What is important is for us to sustain this democracy, build on this institution.
Just yesterday, our attention was drawn to the fact that the Minister of Interior
Welcome back, and you're still watching Democracy and the Rule of Law, and we do sincerely apologize for those mix-up. Actually, what I wanted you to see there was the submission of the point of order, rather, raised by the Senate Minority Leader, Senator Godswill Akpabio, who described the intervention of the court as an infringement of as an unnecessary interference on the National Assembly process. Now the question is, Barrister Farumbi, the court order which we cited in the course of our discussion, does it amount to any interference on the independence of the Senate, the legislative arm of government in this case?
You see, when I got that report, particularly the one that said we are going to write to the CGN and complain, I laughed. It's as if our National Assembly do not know what democracy is all about. We have separation of power when in democracy. The legislature is there, the executive is there, the judiciary is there. And when the legislature and the executive loggerhead, someone else will intervene to put them in proper perspective.
Yes.
And for them to sit down in the house and say the intervention of the court is approaching the court is an unnecessary intervention, honestly, with due respect to them. I do not know the adjective I should have used to qualify. I think it is unfortunate, most unfortunate. If they know that the court issue ought not to be taken at all, they should go there with all their armory and attack it and let the court decide. It is not for them to sit down in the house and be saying it is an undue interference. What is undue interference? The interpretation of whatever they are relying on, the interpretation of the Constitution rests in the heart of the judiciary. It is judiciary that can say this is what this law means. It is not anybody's, and that's why you will always have two sides of a coin. When a matter goes to court, there will be argument for and argument against, and the court will now distill which of the two arguments conform with the law. And whatever the decision is, we are bound to obey it. If there is a higher court, we can go to the higher court. But once the higher court has spoken on it, please to God, for all intents and purposes, that is final. Until that higher court now revisited the case and probably overruled itself. So I want to say it is most unfortunate. It was not be heard that this is coming from the Senate House of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We are not just practicing democracy today or last year or 2 years ago or 5 years ago. We're supposed to have matured and gone beyond the level they are saying. When you say intervention of a court and do interference, look at what happened in Melaye's case. You saw the ruling of the court that Melaye shouldn't have approached the court in the first instance, but that is the ruling of the court. Nobody will cut off his head for approaching the court. That is the civilized thing to do in a civilized and democratic society. So by going to court to say, no, Senate, you can't do this, National Assembly, you can't do this, is a civilized way to resolve issues. And they should go there with all their laws, all their armories, all their this and that, to go and fight it, not to sit in the chambers and now be seen they are writing protest letter. Is protest letter a defense? All right,
let me have your take, Barrister Munen. In reference to the principle of separation of power, I just want to have your own take. Beautiful. Does the injunction of the court on the amendment of the Electoral Act urging the National Assembly to maintain status quo, does it in any way interfere with their independence?
Very well. You see, I believe that by reason of the doctrine of separation of powers, the judiciary, the legislature is allowed to make laws. The judiciary is expected to interpret the laws as made by the legislature, and the executive is to enforce, execute the laws. Now, any attempt by any of the arms to interfere in the functions of any other is an unnecessary interference. It's illegal. Now, there is no problem about anybody going to court to challenge a law that is in existence. And the court, which is expected to interpret, will look at the law and see whether it is contrary to public policy, equity, and good conscience. And if it is nullified severally. Now, if anybody goes to court to challenge the process of making, it's not yet a law, it's a bill. It has not come out yet. And you now say they should stop making that law. It is an interference on the functions of that body. And it is not right. And it is unfortunate that a judge, a court, will sit down and grant that kind of injunction. That is my take in this. And I want to believe that I disagree with the learned senator that they are writing a letter to the CJN and all that. That is not the proper procedure.
Okay.
You challenge the decision by appeal. Go on appeal against that decision and ensure that it is done within a speedy period of time to get the judgment of the Court of Appeal. If the Court of Appeal does not satisfy your hearing based on decided authorities, you go to the Supreme Court. It is only when the Supreme Court decides. If the Supreme Court says, yes, it was right for the court to grant injunction against your process of making a law, which is novel to me, then that will be the end of it. But as it is now, it is an infringement on the functions of the National Assembly for any of the arms to stop them from making the law. Remember, I have said, the moment the law has come out and become law, then you can challenge it. But as it is now, it is still a process of making, and it is a bill. And nobody can say that you should not go ahead to ensure that bill becomes law. You understand?
Okay.
The fact that the Constitution also gives the president the right to refuse assent to a bill. And the same Constitution now says the National Assembly can override that refusal. So why does somebody now go to court to say you cannot override? That is trying to put spanner in the wheel of progress. And I feel it is wrong. That is my thinking.
All right, Barrister Fred.
My take is very simple. The National Assembly has the powers to make law. It's in the Constitution. But they have also made a pronouncement. Because before that time, INEC has already come up with their timetable for the election. And then the National Assembly, after INEC has made that pronouncement, says that they want to reorder what INEC has done, the functions of INEC. I sympathize with the minority leader, who is a leader of my party. You understand what I'm saying? I'm a PDP person. But I'm speaking here as a Nigerian and as a lawyer, that once that pronouncement that was made by the National Assembly, that they are reordering what INEC has done lawfully, then of course you are generating controversy. And the people that went to court is not even the federal government. It's a court party. And they have a locus because they are participants. They are also going to be part of the election. So they have a locus to go to say, what they are even asking the court to do is that, please interpret for us. INEC has announced timetable. Does the National Assembly has the power now to change it? That's what they're asking for. Tell us. They are now going to court for for judicial interpretation of what is taking place between INEC and the National Assembly. For me, I don't see anything wrong in that. So the question is, does the court have jurisdiction for what they are doing? The answer is yes. And if they have jurisdiction to hear the matter, that is the beginning of the matter. And what happens at the end of the day, like my Leland friend has said, who is a very senior member of the bar, says that, look, whatever the court says is binding. If it is not binding at the lower court, you go to the higher court. And once you get to the higher court and the higher court says it's binding on you, that is the end of the matter. So what we are saying is, we're not saying that the National Assembly does not have powers to make law. They have not interrupted the procedure that has been put in place by the National Assembly to make their laws. They are not saying that, kill the bill. That's not what they are asking for. They are just asking for, INEC has released their timetable. National Assembly says no, they want to reorder it. As of today, do they have the right to reorder it?
All right, you did say when a court issues a ruling, it is binding on every party to adhere to it. Now, the question is, I'm just trying to, okay, what if the National Assembly goes ahead and starts acting on this particular bill? Is that an aberration?
That will be an
It's ultra-virus. It's ultra-virus, their powers.
What we are talking about, the injunction granted, is not injunction entirety.
Yes.
It's just for a limited period of time.
Yes.
And within this limited period of time, come back, come and tell me why I should not.
I think Tuesday.
Entertain the case.
Tuesday.
You understand? Rather than this
blowing hot.
all you need to do is to. And as long as the injunction is subsisting, it's binding on everybody. If National Assembly should go ahead and continue to tamper with that, I think they will be going against the rule of law. And if there's any organization, any arm that ought to hold jealously the rule of law, I think the National Assembly is it. Because they are the one that makes it, that I constitutionally empowered to make law. And when the lawmaker is breaking the law, it's unfortunate.
I don't actually see any reason why the National Assembly would want to go on to conclude what they had started because of this injunction. Because if they try to do that, that would be legislative rascality. And it is always advised against, even the judiciary too.
All right, let's talk about...
Before we go to the other one, my pain, as I expressed before, is that, look at this, I call it a shenanigan, because the amendment that was done in 2010 that they are trying to rely upon to say that, in accordance with the Electoral Act, that means whatever laws they now make concerning the Electoral Act, it has been imputed into the Constitution. You understand what I'm saying? That same amendment did not give the National Assembly powers to change the dates and the sequence of an election. It was not clear. So for you to now rely on an amendment that does not actually give you express powers, then there's a lacuna, there's a problem.
But
and
that's
what I'm advising.
Is it not to make laws?
That's what I'm saying that the National Assembly must tread carefully. They must look inward. They must take that constitution again and look at the wordings, the spirit and letters in what amendment they have done, and then look at the powers that has been given to INEC by the Constitution. So if there's a duplication of that same thing you are asking to do, you want to order the sequence, and if the Constitution says that INEC is the one that should do that, then if you are weighing the two laws now, is definitely the Electoral Act must give way to the Constitution. That's what we're saying.
Okay, what is in this for the average Nigerian? As you know, when both arms of government are at loggerheads, the masses suffer. What is in this for us as Nigerians?
The whole thing is just a distraction. That is what I discovered about this. It's a distraction. The average Nigerian is only interested in good governance. And so anybody that wants the election to sort of suit or to favor him or to be on his own side just because he wants to manipulate the system and all that is actually fighting against the system, which is the populace. We are only interested in good governance. Any of the elections that want to come first, let it come. But it must be according to the law. You see, my take in the whole thing is that this amendment, if maybe the National Assembly is sensing some disaster or whatever in the election that is forthcoming, and they feel they want to change it to suit them and all that, the executive has the right to resist it, as it were. You understand? But if this resistance is going to cause us more pains, I mean the populace, the citizenry is going to cause us more pains, what is the purpose of this resistance? What is the purpose of even intervening in trying to make this law to suit your own ego and all that? I believe that there's no need for all these who are crying. They should allow the system to continue as it is. Although, in my thinking, they have the right to make laws to influence the way the order or the sequence of election is going to take place. You understand? I know that so many people are saying that if they had brought in this before INEC announced the timetable, it would have been very okay. And that is the way I also look at it. But the challenge I am having is that they still have the power to make the law. If they make the law and the law comes before the election, INEC has no reason not to obey it. That is the way I look at it. I'm not biased in any way in favor of any particular party. I'm looking at the law, I'm looking at the system, I'm looking at us as Nigerians. What is going to be the effect of all this? Because if at the end of the day, they cause infighting in the entire place, and before you know it, the president will now say he wants to declare a state of emergency, he wants to stay on and all that stuff, because there are so many things people are glamoring all over the place. Somebody was even talking about military takeover and all that stuff. So we will be the ones to suffer at the end of the day.
Yes.
So they should be careful about the way they are going about all this.
That's why I asked that question.
That's why I said, it has always been said that where two elephants fight,
the grass suffers.
The grass will always suffer. The Nigerian populace will definitely have to pay for this.
Sure.
Remember, don't let us deceive ourselves. We are not too literate to the extent we are taking ourselves to. You understand? Now, even when some people got it in mind that there will be election, this and that, they will still forget the sequence how much more when it is dangerously close to the election. And what are we talking about? We said independent National Electoral Commission. The way we are portraying ourselves, are we making that body to be independent?
It has never been independent.
Just hold on, sir. Just hold on. Are we making it to be independent? Now, they announce this is the sequence with which we want to carry out our election in accordance with the power that is given to us. Now, the National Assembly wakes up and says, no, you cannot do it that way. By the time they are following the National Assembly, hook, line, and sinker, are they independent again? You understand? The order of election has not been a problem in this country. It has always been prerogative of whoever is conducting the election. I remember, if my memory serves me right, the presidential election is always the last election in the 79 and the 83 election.
Earlier,
my memory serves me
was
right.
The last.
And there was no cry about it. So if this set of electoral commissions now comes up and says, oh, this is the way we want to do it, what we should demand is do it well. Let our vote count. Let every eligible people that will vote. Even when they have long time to prepare, the so-called machine functions badly. How much more when we are
distracted,
when we are facing uncertainty. And the moment we are in this uncertainty, it affects us. Now the executive will not be able to plan and do what they want to do. The legislature feel that, oh no, we will show them that we have power. We will veto yes, you have the right to veto. But then, who will lose at the end of the day? And in doing this, are we having the interest of Nigerians?
Someone even pointed out the economic implication of having three elections.
That we go into the printing, into the logistics, into the preparation, into the this, into the that. Where are we doing that?
I know how elections are in Nigeria. Economic activities are grounded at particular.
If we're planned, all these elections we can have it everything in a day.
In a day.
It's possible. If we're planned, and if we do it in a day, it will save us cost, it will save us time, it will save so many things. We should be working towards that. That's what National Assembly should be thinking, and should be doing. It should be looking at having a legislation to accommodate that, rather than it is this that must come first, it is this that must come last. Whether come first or come last, what does it matter?
I think it's this INEC that actually changed the order. The presidential used to be last. But INEC came and changed the order so that presidential election comes first.
About 4 elections under it.
For the past, I think 3 or so elections, is the president
I think
that comes
What are your final take on this
what happened is this. 1999 and 2007, it was the presidential elections first, right? So in 2015, they changed it that the presidential election should be the last. And it happened to be a major disaster. Okay, it came last first, right? It came,
yes,
it came last. So this 2015, it was the presidential election first. You know the governorship came later.
Yes.
Yes.
That is what
2017
was
it came
presidential.
first. And because it came first, the result was very bad. You know, Jonathan lost that election. So this time again, they want to take it back to the former order. But some people in the National Assembly with different kind of politics that is going on there. You know, the Mr. Senate President Fashion. You know, he has been going to court over one issue or the other. And I think that they are now saying that, oh, if that works, that means to remove a president is easier by this election coming first. So let us retain it if at all we can use it to settle our differences. I think they have a problem with that. And the presidency is also saying, no, we are not going to take that. Let INEC do its job. But in all of this, to be honest, like
what is now the role of
to
INEC
be honest,
in
what he said, previously was that what we really need is a credible election. Just guarantee us that you are going to give us a credible election.
And our vote will count.
And our vote will count. Once our vote counts, we know who to vote at, we know who to retain. So let Nigerians not suffer for this and let our money not be wasted on this type of trivial ego between the executive and the legislature.
All right, you're still watching Democracy and the Rule of Law, and now we're done with the Electoral Act amendment and the seeming face-off between the presidency and the National Assembly. Time to move on to another topic. Do stay with us. We'll be right back.
We collaborate to create a number of opportunities to increase trade and investment and to expand access to electricity, an essential component of both human and economic development. We also take on a number of challenges across this continent together, from corruption to disease to terrorism. But the way we support is in providing them capability, capacity, whether it's equipment, but also training, personnel for special operations, and sharing certain intelligence to ensure that they have all the information available to plan and carry out a recovery effort. But I think it's also important to put this in the broader regional context as well. Boko Haram is a threat to others regionally, and this has been a subject in my meetings elsewhere while in Africa as well, and in my discussions, in fact, with President Deby in Chad earlier today. We spoke about the threat of Boko Haram, and I think what's important and has really been powerful is the collaboration and the joint task force of which Nigeria is a part and Chad is a part to respond to this threat of terrorism, of which Boko Haram is one organization. There are other threats that the leadership in this part of the country has to deal with, and this part of the continent has to deal with. So the United States is very engaged in that coordinated effort as well, both in supporting equipping, training, and where we can advise and provide information. I think that's the best way we can help the government of Nigeria secure the release of these girls, which we hope will be done in a peaceful manner. We hope that something can be worked out and they will be persuaded to release these girls quickly. That's what we pray anyway.
Welcome back, and this is Democracy and Rule of Law. Time now to discuss the Boko Haram insurgency and the kidnap of the Dapchi and Chibok school girls. The former U.S. Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, was in Abuja on Monday, where he met with President Muhammad Buhari. And the president said the federal government will negotiate rather than adopt military option to secure the release of the 110 students of the Government Girls Technical College, Dapchi, Yobe State, abducted by Boko Haram insurgents about 3 weeks ago. Buhari told Rex Tillerson at a closed-door meeting at the Presidential Villa, Abuja, that the government was doing everything possible to secure their release. The president also said Nigeria is working in consonance with international organizations and negotiators to ensure that the girls were released unharmed by their captors. And in that report, which we just watched now, the former U.S. Secretary of State was talking about Boko Haram being a threat, even which the international community recognizes. And he proposed a joint task force with other neighboring countries to tackle the Boko Haram insurgency. But the president is all about being careful and getting the girls, the Dapchi and Chibok girls, back alive and safe. So I'll start with Barrister Munen. Negotiating or embarking on the military option, which are you for? Are you with the president or the former U.S. Secretary of State?
Very well. Judith, as a Nigerian, I would say that what I would want to see is the release of those girls.
Irrespective of
no matter the system they want to use, let us have these girls back to us, the Chibok girls and the Dapchi girls. But you see, ordinarily, I would actually prefer a situation that you use military to get the girls out. You understand? Instead of negotiation. The reason is negotiation has been going on over the years for the release of the Chibok girls, and we are all witnesses to what eventually happened. The number of Chibok girls that were released, they said were released, and then some Boko Haram leaders were also released to them in exchange and all that. Money also went underground to fuel the Boko Haram's ability to continue to suppress and cause havoc, because if they are starved of money, if they don't have any means of sustenance, there's no way they would not be able, they would continue to fight and continue to destroy, continue to capture these girls. So I believe that since we have been negotiating and nothing has actually come out of it, apart from the few girls that were were released, which of course these Dapchi girls now have gone to replace the ones that were released. So why are we still talking about negotiating with these insurgents? Apart from the issue of sending wrong signal to other criminals out there, the people in the creeks and all that, looking for what to hold government to ransom, so that they will come and negotiate with them and give them money and all manner of things. If the government is seen to be stern in respect of using military action to get whatsoever it wants, which is what a country of this nature is supposed to be, then people would start, those people that have criminal minds will start to look for somewhere else to go and hide. So although I, as a Nigerian, I would want any means to get the children back to us, but the issue of negotiating with these insurgents, with these criminals, with terrorists, is something that I would not want to subscribe to.
All right. Barrister Farumbi, I've read different opinions on this issue of negotiating as proposed by the president, and many have said it could be a ploy by the president to the terrorists to sort of preserve the Dapchi girls, unlike the case of the Chibok girls, where we have reports that some ended up being killed, maimed, and many tortured in a way, and some came back as women and not girls with babies. Is this a sort of ploy to preserve the girls?
Well, the whole issue is an unfortunate incident. Now, the stage we are in a dilemma. No matter how powerful we are militarily, we are in a dilemma. We have known that people, terrorists like that, we always use human being as shield. So that when you want to attack them, you attack the human being you want to save first. You kill the one you want to save first before you can attack us. That's the dilemma we are now. And when we have situations like this, we must be very, very, very careful. I am opposed to, mark my words, please. Generally, I'm opposed to negotiating with terrorists. However, because of the situation we are, if negotiation is what will bring those girls back,
so be
I
it.
am 100% in support. You understand? Now we failed by allowing those girls to be taken away in the first place. They are not granules that you can put in your pocket and go out. They were carried away in trucks, in trailers, and they were able to beat all our security apparatus, security system. So unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. But having achieved that, then the life, every life of those girls, every one of them is important to us.
Yes.
And what will make us to be able to be happy as a nation is when every soul that were taken away, every soul is brought back. That is why I will endorse negotiation if that will bring those girls back. When you want to crush them militarily, you should have done that before the kidnapping. If you have done that, they will not have power to. But the terrorists, they've succeeded in the art of kidnapping. Let us look for ways of bringing those girls, of rescuing those girls from their hands, without casualty at all, particularly on the part of the girls. Now, we're even talking without casualty. We don't know what has happened to some of the parents. By now, some of them might have died. Because we all know what it takes not to be able to locate your child in just 24 hours, not to talk of weeks, not to talk of months, not to talk of years.
I even saw a report of a Dapchi parent who was saying he would rather even have his daughter dead so as to get closure and I have the body, I know she's dead, rather than living in uncertainty.
Yes. And those parents, ask them, okay, do we replace you with your children? They will agree. Take us away, release those children. That is the level of commitment, that is the level of bond between them. So if negotiation will bring them back, I don't know the level of negotiation, and I'm not supposed to know because it's a security issue. But please, if they will go into negotiation, make sure the negotiation will bring those guys back. Don't pay any ransom, don't pay any money into a wrong hand. At the end of the day, we find them dead or we find them not released at all. There's time for everything. Military option, there's time for it. Negotiation, there's time for it. And what are we talking about? No matter how hot a war could be, no matter how deadly fought a war could be, at the end of the day, we will end up in negotiation table.
All right, by international standards, when it comes to dealing with terrorists, it's an abhorrence for government, for any country to even admit openly that it will negotiate with terrorists. It's always been that we don't negotiate with terrorists. And now our president, is this an indication that he's at his wit's end of how to deal with the Boko Haram insurgency, particularly now triggered with the recent kidnap of the Dapchi girls?
What makes a nation great, what makes a country to be feared or respected, is your ability to use your military to protect the territorial integrity of your nation. And then when you lose that, you become a worthless country. Part of the political propaganda that brought this government into power was that there was no need at all for the Boko Haram to have succeeded in taking those Chibok girls away in the first place.
2014, yes.
2014. And so there was this promise by this present administration that it will never happen. And that in 6 months, they were going to get those girls back. Well, this is the 3rd year. They've not gotten those girls back.
And now
the first set of negotiation they made, we got some few girls. Like you said, they've taken another 100 and something to replace them.
Yes.
And a lot of things went through that negotiation. So they brought us back to square one. And when we begin to negotiate, that will continue to happen because it's not a big business for the Boko Haram people. But what happened to our girls? What should we do? That is where we are. Look at what America did to the man who came to bomb their country.
Saddam Hussein.
Saddam Hussein. No, not even Saddam Hussein. The other man.
Osama bin Laden, rather. I'm sorry.
the president then, President Obama, was sitting with his military architecture, his men, and they plotted the downfall of that man, and he was killed. And the whole world doffed their hat for America. They doffed their hat for President Obama. In fact, that was why Americans returned him for a second term. Because it was something nobody expected. No rumor, no leakages, nothing. We just heard the man is dead. So what are we talking about here? We have the NSOs, we have the DSS, we have the Army, we have the Air Force, we have the military, and yet up to this moment we can't get one man that is operating and putting this nation in disrepute. Till today. There was a time the military propaganda came out. They have killed him. They have killed the Shekau.
On more than 4 locations.
For more than 4 occasions. So we're just making mockery of ourselves. And if you make some campaign promises to the Nigerian people, and you are not reversing those premises, and you are not able to carry out those things that you said, all in the name of self-pity, that is not acceptable. Now, what are we paying our military for? What are we paying our intelligence men for? The meaning of intelligence is that you must go underground, whichever way you can do it, and then get information that can enable us to reach our enemies.
Yes.
Now, we are not even fighting another country. We are just fighting some little rascals from a section of this country who are hiding somewhere in a small tiny forest. We have surveillance aircraft, we have all kinds of equipment, and America has just given us some recently, and we are still buying, and deployment of all of those is not giving us result, and we are still negotiating with these common criminals. These boys, they are no more than 25 or 30 or 50 inside forest, just come into town with vehicles, pack our children, and they just go away. So now, what happens to these girls? That is why everybody is in sympathy.
Yes.
He's in sympathy, I'm in sympathy, you're in sympathy. Because it's the life of those children that we're not talking about now. Otherwise, we have failed as a nation. This government has failed us completely when it comes to security. Because if yesterday you were boasting that you have been able to bring out some Chibok girls for us, and now they have taken 100 and something back to replace those ones that they gave to you, there's a game going on here. So, and that game must be checkmated. And please, the Mr. President should go beyond negotiation to give us a solution. If he does not have a solution, let him apologize to Nigerians that I have failed in my electoral promises. It's not forbidden. Overseas, you hear of the president resigning for unable to do what he has said he wants to do. So why is it difficult in our country? When you take the president and say, let this president resign, they will say, hey, why are you saying so? Please don't say that too.
You are biased.
Why you are biased? You are not biased. It's a promise. The reason why you end that vote is because of what you say you will do. And if you are not able to do what you say or what you promise to do, now if I'm to your husband marry you, and you say my problem is I want to go to school, my parents couldn't train me. The only thing I want from a man that wants to marry me is to send me to secondary school and university. Do that thing for me, I'm okay. Don't worry, I will train you. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, the man is not talking about your education anymore. Will you be happy? That is where we are right now. President Buhari and all look at the security architecture that we have in this country. But let somebody just steal money and run into somewhere, you discover that in the next few hours they've got it. Look at what they did in Port Harcourt. How they killed those boys in Port Harcourt.
Don Wani and his uncle.
Uncle. Some ran away to some place, they pursued him to all the way to Edo State or so, and they caught him. So why is it difficult for us to reach Shakau and his men, who are inside the forests? What happens to our underground soldiers? What happened to the naval guys who will now go through another means? What happened to our Air Force that have, you know, fighter jets that can go and get information that will enable us to
all right, quickly, let's look at the manner in which the abduction of the Chibok girls is being handled. When it just happened, the military was being accused of dismounting, leaving the area before the abduction took place. And the military replied and said, before we left Dapchi, that area, we handed over security to the police. The police said, no, he did not hand over security to me. Now, let's look at the lack of synergy. How do you expect a security outfit who lack synergy to actually protect the lives and properties of Nigerians?
Very well, Judith. You see, to be able to have a good security architectural network in a society or a country, as it were, you need to have the cooperation, the synergy of all the security apparatus, the security groups that you have in the country. Now, the military, ordinarily, it is only in a war situation that you have them come out to take care of security and all that, as it is in that section of the country.
The northeast.
Yes, very well. Normally, security in the society is the work of the police.
Okay.
So, if the military, as in this particular situation, they were sent there for a purpose to ensure that these children were safe, and they stayed there, after some time, they were pulled out without informing the police or telling the police to take over. As it were, in any case, the police were not even able to handle the security network, and that was why the military came in. So why should you pull out this, the military men, and you now pass the buck to the police people that you were told were unable to protect, and you remove your boys and you hand over to the police? The buck passing is neither here nor there. You see, the intelligence we have really failed in our own intelligence network in this country. I was just listening to the radio today, and they were saying that the military is saying that they are close to getting the Chibok, the Dapchi girls released. They are close to. They are going to capture. They are going to do this. Can you imagine that kind of news? So if you are trying to get into the enemy territory, must you go around with trumpet? We are coming, we are going to get you, we are going to capture you, this time around we will cut your head. That is nonsense. How can the military be shouting to the people that they are going to get them? We are close to them.
We have information.
That publicity is not necessary. It's not necessary. So we have failed in our security intelligence in this nation. For the Dapchi girls to be adopted in the first place is a serious dent in our own security network. Serious dent. It means that anybody can just enter into this country, do anything, and get away, which is very bad. So the soldiers, the policemen, the DSS, and all the security network should come together. There should be a synergy that they work hand in hand to ensure that, in fact, if like my colleague said, the moment somebody stole, and they say, that person is, and they pursued, and they follow that, unless they don't want to. The police can get somebody who has committed an offense anywhere in this country, unless they don't want to. And I want to believe that they don't want to capture these Boko Haram people. There's something that is underground that is really not fitting well in the consciousness of an average Nigerian. Why these people should be coming out from the forest at will, get into a place and capture some people and go back to the same forest, and nothing is done about it. When you talk of capturing up to 100 children, it's not 5 people. No, and then they go through a long distance.
Sir, please, before I forget this, if Boko Haram can come and take our guests and enter that forest, can't our soldiers enter that forest?
Abi, what is in the forest?
Can't they enter the forest? That is where these boys live. They live there, they come to town to buy food, to take water, to take all kinds of ingredients, to even take women that they want to sleep with. And they go back to that same forest. But our soldiers cannot enter the forest to go and fight.
What is wrong?
And you see, are we interested in anybody coming over the screen to tell us that we are close to this? It's even being said by the Minister of Defense. Minister of Defense that coordinates all.
I watched him last night say that
when Osama bin Laden was to be taken.
Did you hear from America?
Even those who are going to take him do not know
the mission they were going on.
They do not know the mission they were going to. Who is interested in you telling me that you are close? You are not close until you bring these people.
Yes.
Bring them, let us see them. We are not interested in whether you are close or you are far. Let us see those who are kidnapped.
I think there's a DC somewhere.
There is a DC because
Judy,
this thing has been with us for how many years now? It's rather unfortunate that we cannot even from the air report where
particular location
where the Sakarao, where he is. It's unfortunate we cannot even locate that these girls were in so areas. Look at the danger, who are with them, who are this, who are that. Those are the things. Then when you know all these things, then you will know what to do. There's a way you can gas them, but immediately sweep in and rescue those whom you want to rescue and give them treatment and come back to life. And those others that are with them, you capture them. Look, honestly, we don't have security intelligence in this country.
Shekau is a long story. Shekau is a long story. Let me just add this. Shekau is a long story. Look at Fulani herdsmen carrying rifles on their neck, killing people across the country every day. They are not inside the forest though. They are in the city with people. They are inside the villages with people they kill. But yet no arrest of one person, no prosecution. Yesterday somebody posted something on the social media where they were slicing a lady. They closed her mouth. They were peeling her skin, peel all over her body. She was still alive. They would slap her. They were cutting her gradually until they cut her to pieces. She died I still have it right here on my WhatsApp in this country. And I saw someone like a military person standing and watching them while they were doing that.
All right,
where are we going?
All right, let's look at this issue of Boko Haram. The military at a point came out to say that the Boko Haram insurgents have been degraded. And there was a point the Minister of Information did say technically Boko Haram has been defeated and all we need to do is just to mop up some remaining insurgents in the northeast. Probably this led to the government and the military itself relaxing security in the northeast. Now, the fact that bombings are not taking place as often as it used to be, is it an indication that Boko Haram has been defeated? Is the kidnap of the Dapchi girls not an eye-opener that all is not yet well in the northeast?
Well, when you look at it, honestly, an African Nigerian gave credit to this government when they first came in with the way they tackled the issue of Boko Haram headlong.
Yes.
And we have some respite. There is no doubt about that. We are not taking that credit away from the government. But then, nobody will say well done until you are finished doing the job. Now, when you don't have, when you are self-confident, you don't coordinate what you say on the television or the news you release to the people. It's always an unfortunate thing. We need not tell the military that guerrilla warfare is not easily won like that.
It is not.
It's not easily won like it. When you have a battlefield, you can take the battle, finish the battle, and everything will die there. But where there will be a bomb blast here today, and you can run from there to another pole to go and do it, then you don't come out to boast. Let your work tell the people that you have actually achieved. Now, honestly, I want to see complacence on the part of the government, and I want to see that maybe they are overrating themselves and underrating the Boko Haram.
At this point, can we even underrate the Boko Haram insurgents?
That's why we are having this problem. And look at the Dapsi guy said with the army handed over to the police. Why are you handing over? In the first instance, if the police can do it effectively, you
would
not
be drafted there.
Once you are there, why are you handing over? For goodness sake, when you handed over, what other
could it be an indication that the security is overstretched? You know, the operatives.
The security can never be overstretched because the government invested heavily in it. They can never be overstretched. I think arrogance and probably complacence is ruling us. That's the reason why we think we have won. We make noise too much. We talk too much. We give ourselves credit too much when we have not achieved anything. After when Osama bin Laden was dislodged, did you hear any military say any sort of things? No. There's a way. Do what you're supposed to do. Go back to your share.
Some information should be classified. Nigerians don't need it. Come with results.
It's not this firing of gun that matters. What are the intelligent information you have gathered? That is even your weapon. When you have good intelligent information, you will know where they are. When they are moving out of that place, you know. Where they are directing their step to, you know. Then you know how to pluck it. You know where to wait for them. You know where to tackle them. You know, these are what we are lacking. And that's why we are being given surprises all the time. What is happening is just surprises. If we have kept them enough, we know the Sambisa forest is their main area. Why don't you monitor what goes in and out of that Sambisa forest? How do they get their food? How do they get their supply of money, supply of food? Who comes out? Who goes in? That's why Osama bin Laden was caught. Osama bin Laden do not use any electrical gadget, any this, any that. He went primitive so that he could not be traced. But those who have senses and are thinking, thought very, very deeply and well, and make sure that someone is always going in here and coming out. Nobody will see him to the door. Nobody will, what is he coming there to do? This and this and that. And they isolated the building. It could be a 3-month issue, it could be a 6-month, it could be a one. They isolated the building and they got what they wanted. Do this for us too and get what. By now, the map of Sambisa should be everywhere. The movement, every movement, even a NASS movement there is supposed to be monitored by now. But we are not getting it.
And we've been having constant reports of bombing and raid on Sambisa forest, and it is yet to yield any results. Are we even sure the insurgents are in Sambisa forest?
That's the thing. Because there was a time I read that the military had overrun Sambisa forest. Yes. And that was when the information minister came out and said that the Boko Haram had been technically defeated.
And they are going to turn the forest to training ground.
Good. So how is it that they are still there? Some people are still going back to that place to live there. So the Boko Haram insurgents are still coming out to get our girls and returning back to the same forest that the military had overrun. This is what we have to think about. The military weapons, I mean the weapons that they use, the Boko Harams use to come and destroy us, where do they get them from? How do they get these weapons into the forest for them to use? These are issues that are still begging for answers, and it's not something that a government spokesman will just come out and say we have killed Shekau, we have captured Boko Haram, they are no more in existence and all that. The next day they bomb another village and kill several people. You understand? So where do they get the bombs? Are they the ones manufacturing it? Is it the kind of bomb that they can manufacture? These are issues that are big, and unless and until this government has the will to deal decisively with the Boko Haram insurgents.
You think the
There's
willpower
no-
is not there? You think the will...
The willpower is not there.
Why do you
The
say
willpower
so?
is not there. The entire military, both the army, the air force, can surround that place and capture the place within a twinkling of an eye. They can do it. We have enough soldiers on ground. We have enough soldiers in the air. They can monitor what is going on in that place step by step. They can put this in that place that will record every activity that is going on in that place. There's nothing with this age of IT age that we are now. It's not difficult for somebody to monitor what is going on anywhere. In fact, they can monitor what is going on in somebody's bedroom and then getting a report somewhere. So there's no will to get these things out. They behave as if they are frustrated. There's no frustration.
But
As
someone
soldiers-
said that.
as-
Someone said that Azumi, the daughter of the president, the daughter of members
any
of
of
the
them.
National Assembly, the daughter of one minister is there, the story will be different.
I'm
and
sure
agree.
they would have.
And agree. And agree.
Yes.
So we don't lay premium on our lives.
You see,
In America, if a
sabo-
single person is killed,
Yes.
the whole of America will be turned upside down
Mm.
and make sure
One
that
person-
that assailant was gotten.
See, sabotage can also be in this. It's just like the issue of NEPA, for instance, that we have spent several billions of dollars on. Somebody said somewhere that the people who are importing generator to this country,
They are frustrated.
they are frustrating the process, which is not, it might just be true.
Which is logical.
Now, if you capture Sirikau today and there is peace, there will be no food for some people any longer. Just recently now, the presidency said they are going to take $1 billion to put into this same Chibok issue. So if you now capture Sirikau today now, where would the next dollar come from? So let's
Some
not
people are eating fat from it.
like we have said.
It has become a business and
Yes,
trade.
what we have said here now, if they are listening, let them listen. If Shikau and Co can come out of that forest to come and take our children, what stop our military from going to that forest and stay there and see what is happening?
All right, now that the, Barrister Farumbi, I know you're for negotiation. Now that the president is saying that FG will negotiate the release of the abducted schoolgirls, both the Dapchi and the Chibok schoolgirls, his mind seems pretty made up. So what are the pitfalls he should avoid and what are the ways he should go about it?
Well, you know, we don't know the negotiator, but we must be very, very careful. Very, very careful in a way. When you negotiate and you are not negotiating well, you are empowering your enemies. For instance, I know one of the demand will be release this, release that of our members. One of the demand is likely to be pay also so and so money, the money that will be used to purchase
More
weapons and
weapons,
use
yes,
against us
against-
again. So when you are negotiating, try let the negotiation be rehabilitating those people back to the society. Can you? We are yes, release these people. We are prepared to rehabilitate you. Will you down your terrorist acts and let us rehabilitate you back to the society?
More like granting amnesty.
More like granting amnesty. Because by the time you're empowering them monetarily and otherwise, and you are telling them to release criminals without trial, then you are fueling the crisis the more. It's just like you are taking one and you are preparing them to take another 10. So negotiation is not easy. Like I said, naturally that wouldn't have been my preference. If not the involvement of the children.
Or the girls.
Of the girls. That wouldn't have been my preference. But I value the life of those children because what did the criminal law says in the criminal jurisprudence, they said it's better for 99 criminals to escape than one innocent person to suffer. So that's the only reason why I will accommodate negotiation. But first of all, I want to see those girls back in full, about 105 or thereabout. Let them be. So whatever, then the government can now sit and think very. But if we plan our intelligence very well, after the negotiation, you can even do so many things. So many things. But then, are we sincere? If we do that, is it not no food for some boys? Because I think what is happening to us is insincerity to put an end to this crisis. I want to believe that is what our problem is. If we have sincerity, what is the old Northeast? Why don't you condone the old Northeast militarily and intelligently? Put your ears to the ground. Go to every local. That's why you are military. In those days, when we were growing up, we used to hear CID. People will meet with you and pretend as if they are.
You don't know them.
And they are gathering information
from you. Yeah.
They will come to you and pretend as if they are drunk. They will drag them on the floor. They are gathering the information. They will come to your midst and do all sorts of things. They will come to your farm as laborers. And they will play the good boys just for them to extract information from you. Those things, why don't you resuscitate them? I don't like the way we think. In Nigeria, we say the old good days. What is old good days?
Air condition intelligence.
What is old good days?
All right, thank you, Martha. Yeah, finally, your
all
last,
right.
what
So
are
my take is this.
Avoiding negotiating.
The president should have the willpower, political willpower, to call the security network to say, if Boko Haram, they come from Sambisa Forest to take our children, what stops us from occupying?
Go occupy Sambisa
Forest. Everywhere.
That's my take.
All right, finally. Yeah?
Because he also said that the IGs should relocate to Benue State at a point when these headmen were really devastating
and
the
it was
place.
surprising.
So why shouldn't the military relocate to Sambisa Forest and get us our children? What we want is those children must be returned to us safe and sound.
And on a final note, let there be accountability. Accountability in the sense that